it is spring, and recently, on more than one occasion, I went for a bike ride, and I can't help but wonder why the heck don't I have any long sleeve jerseys that have pockets in the back? I only own one long sleeve jersey, and I mostly wear it for running because it doesn't have any pockets in the back. So what the heck going on with that? Why don't I have one yet? So that is what our next project is going to be. I'm going to be using the same fabric that I made Michael's bike jersey out of, and I will link the video to that. Although there isn't really much instruction there, so it's really just like, you want to watch me have fun sewing and ride my bike? Okay, good times. So I will be starting with a t-shirt pattern that I have already drafted and like made several of and tweaked, and it fits me really nicely. So that's what I'm gonna go with. Perhaps at some point I will make a video about drafting a t-shirt, but I'm not doing that today. I'm starting with a t-shirt pattern that I have already drafted. And I have a separating zipper, and I'm going to be using white thread because I do not have any more of that lime green thread, and I don't want to go buy thread because I have piles and piles and piles of thread. So I'm just going to have a jersey that has contrast stitching. And what else do I got to say about this? Oh, so because of the fabric is 100% polyester and it doesn't have, as far as I can tell, any significant amount of spandex in it, I will be going with a more casual jersey shape and not so arrow. Um, yes, so with that, so an arrow jersey, as you can imagine, is very tight, form fitting, and it's best if it's got a significant quantity of spandex in it, so that it can better fit over the body's contours. And a more casual jersey is a little bit less shaped, a little bit more loose, boxy fit. Oh, and those are also more common for mountain biking, which is not what I was doing recently, but I do like mountain biking. So I will have a casual, loose fitting jersey for that if I so desire to go mountain biking in it. Yeah, this is what we're gonna do.
If you are going to make yourself a cycling jersey, something that you will want to have is elastic that has some silicone in it. This is called gripper elastic, and it is so that the part of the jersey where the elastic is at the bottom so that it doesn't like ride up when you bend over and whatnot. Because when you're riding a bike, you usually are in a bent over position. At least if you're riding, like, drop bars or whatever. If you're into the really casual, like, beach cruiser type bikes, you probably aren't even wearing a jersey. What makes this thread special is that it's stretchy. It's got a sort of a kinky, spongy texture to it. So that way, when you're doing something that requires a lot of stretch in the seams, they don't rip out. The first thing that I'm going to do, of course, is trace around the front so that I can make some certain changes. The front of the jersey is, of course, going to have a zipper. So what we need to do is, so I've already determined that my collar is going to be 1.5 inches tall. So I need to subtract 1.5 inches from my zipper, which is 24 inches, which means that the front of my jersey needs to be 22.5. And that does not include seam allowance or hem allowance. So I'm going to make a mark down the front at 22.5 inches. And this ruler's not long enough for that. So 22.5 inches is right here. And so jerseys for bikes are typically shaped so that the back is significantly longer than the front. And this is because when you're on a bike and you're hunched over, your back is longer than your front. So I'm going to use my curve ruler, and I'm going to curve from this mark to the edge of, to the side of the jersey. It doesn't look like much of a curve, but it's there. We don't need that part. And in order to accommodate the jersey, I'm going to add a lot. Not a lot of seam allowance. I think how wide is my zipper tape? And I want to have a little bit of overhang in the front. So I need like at least a 1/2 inch. Okay, so 1/2 inch is what I'm going to add to this. Here at the front, I'm going to square, not square exactly, but like make sure that this is matching the other side so it's symmetrical. But it looks like it's actually fairly straight enough for 1/2 inch there. So I'll just draw the line. That's what I got to say about that. If yours is particularly like going up, then you'll want it to go up to match. But I'm not worried about that here. And then, of course, we'll have to add the hem allowance, which at the bottom here. I don't think I actually need that much because it's going to be sewn to the elastic, and then the elastic is what's going to get turned up. So I'm only going to go with a 3/8. And then that 3/8 is going to get sewn to the elastic. So I'm going to do that here. And I'm just going to connect this to the side seam because I actually already have seam allowance on the sides here. Yeah, so ideally that one would take off the seam allowance and make all the changes and then add the seam allowance back on. That does take a lot of time, and if you're just making some pretty slight changes like, you know, the hemline, but you're not really changing the shape of the garment, I think it's fine.
All I'm doing here is cutting out my front pattern piece.
I measured the neckline of the jersey and it came out to 10. Very strange. Came out to exactly 10 inches. That feels way too... That just feels way too, like, whole, even number. But that's what I measured, so that's what I'm... Oh, 10 inches is actually, like, half of the neck edge, but, I'm going to make the pattern piece on the fold. Okay, so, I wanted my jersey collar to be 1.5 inches tall, which means that it actually needs to be 3 inches. The pattern needs to be 3 inches. So I'm going to draw up 3 inches from this original line. Square up 3 inches from this one. And draw across. Then I need to add seam allowance. So since this one's on the fold, so I'll put that arrow there. And then over here, since the front of the jersey has a 1/2 inch, I'm going to go with a 1/2 inch over here as well. And on each side of it, I'm going to go with 3/4. I should only go with, not 3/4, good grief. 3/8. Maybe I should go with 1/4, because that's more like what my, you know, it's kind of weird because my serger's in metric. So it's like halfway between 1/4 and 3/8. And my ruler is got marks for 1/4 inch and 3/8 of an inch, but not something in between, which gets really weird. But I'd rather have my jersey on the slight side. If only because, you know, it's a jersey. Alright, so That's what my collar's gonna look like. I'm gonna make a cuff for the sleeve. So I measured my sleeve and it came out to 7 inches. So I'm gonna draw a line that is 7 inches, which by the way is actually just a little bit bigger than my wrist. My wrist is more like 6 inches, but I didn't want it to be like, skin tight because I do things like wear a watch and stuff. And I want to make sure that my jersey sleeve can like comfortably fit over that or around that, or even if I have like my little glovelets tucked into it or whatever. I'm gonna make this one 3 inches too, or sorry, an inch and a half that becomes 3 inches. That's what I mean. So the pattern piece is 3 inches, but because it's folded in half, it becomes an inch and a half. There's that, and I gotta add the seam allowance, of course. The bottom of the back of the t-shirt pattern is already somewhat curved, but I might accentuate this a little bit, or I might not. This is the same pocket that I used on Michael's jersey, and I'm going to use it on mine because it's a perfectly good pocket. There's no reason for me to draw a new one. I am, however, going to slice the side seam so that I have a two-piece back, and that way I can put the edges of the pocket into the side seam, because I think that will be the best way to secure the sides of the pocket. And it gives it a little bit of a sportier look. First step tracing the back is, of course, drawing a nice long line. Something that really bugs me about basically every jersey that I've ever like bought or borrowed or stolen from Michael or inherited, etc. In any case, almost every jersey, in fact, pretty much exactly every jersey that I've ever bought has been like, the hips are narrower than the waist. Like, what the heck? So I am going to make sure that my hips are generous enough that the jersey doesn't ride up. I hate it when it does that. So this is where the pocket is. I think where do I want the back? Where do I want the pocket? You know what? Hold that thought. Okay, so this is last year's Team Tierra jersey, which that was a company that I worked for, and they had a cycling team, and it was kind of cool. But okay, so I like the pocket placement on here, and I think the tops of the pockets are like just below my waist, maybe like an inch. What does that look like? An inch? Maybe like an inch below my waist. And I like the placement of the pocket. What I mentioned before about being real tight on the hips, yeah, that this jersey has that problem. And I also like I'm not really a fan of the fact that it doesn't have anything like super bright on it, even though it's like a nice contrast of like the black, white, and red. It doesn't have like neon, and it's only got like one itty bitty little spot of reflectiveness here. So that's what I got to say about that. Oh, and reflective materials. Yes, I have some of that, and you will see it soon. So
I'm gonna go put my other shirt back on because I'm not riding a bike right now, so why should I be wearing a jersey?
As I was saying, I want the top of the pocket to be about an inch. Okay, so I'm gonna fold it on its elastic fold line right here. So I want the top of the pocket to be like an inch below my waist. So probably about here. And I'll make a mark for that, as well as this is where the pocket bagging is gonna happen. So I will, because this is on the fold, obviously I can't put a notch there. I will like straight line those across because this pocket is straight line. Get this out of the way. Actually, no, I still need this. Okay, I'm gonna draw here. I should probably like take the seam allowance off of this, but I didn't. So before I make any changes, where's that ruler going? Where did I put that ruler? Oh, all right. Hold on. All right. You were sitting on it. All right, so I'm gonna just bring this in 1/4 of an inch because then we're cutting off the seam allowance of the pocket, which is exactly what we need to be doing because I need to add seam allowance later to these jersey pieces. Blah, 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 blah. All right. So from here, this is where the bottom of the pocket is. This is where the top of the pocket is. I'm gonna like continue this down here, and I want to pull that all the way up there. I think is what I want to do, and I'm gonna use my curved ruler to do that. A nice big curve. That's what I got to say about that. So now I will trace around each piece and add seam allowance. Oh, and I have to move these markings across so that I know later where to put my jersey pocket. Alright. Now I add seam allowance. Get a load of this material. Is it blinding? Yeah. That's because I guess it's like impregnated with glass or something, but it's like the super high-vis reflective stuff. And I got a whole yard of it. I didn't need a whole yard of it, but I have it. I'm drawing directly on it because I can. And I'm drawing a bias strip that is 3/4 of an inch. And the reason that I'm doing this is so that I can put it in the seam on the back. Nothing really draws easily on here, but like I can draw on it, so I am. As I said, this is going in the back. And it's gonna be like just a little bit sticking out as like a welt, and it's gonna look awesome. That's what I gotta say about that. I'm going to serge the lower part of the collar to the front of the jersey neck, and I'm only gonna do a little bit, and that's because I'm gonna put the zipper in there. So I'm only doing about that much on both sides. This is the jersey that I was wearing earlier, and so this is why I do the collar that way, because this folds over. But it looks like the zipper went in after the elastic at the bottom. However, okay, so this is a different jersey from a different brand. The top is done the same way as the other, but down here, it has been hemmed after the zipper's been put in. So I guess it would be fine to do either one. A third jersey of a third brand. All right, collar is done the same way, where, you know, yeah. But down here, it looks like it was hemmed before the zipper was put in. So that's really interesting that it could go either way. And I think I would like to, I don't know, I kind of want to hem it before I put the zipper in, just because, like, I think that would be easier somehow, because it's a separating zipper. And then I could make sure that it's, like, perfect lined up. Therefore, as annoying as it is, it means that I have to assemble the entire jersey before I put the zipper in, and that means that I need to do the pocket now. So, how much elastic are we putting in the top of the pocket? Enough that it squinches in, but not so much that it, like, you know, becomes a ball of mess. So, it's really dependent on how big the pocket is, but I would say probably about, these are paper scissors. As I was saying, probably about 2/3 of the measurement of the pocket is probably what I would do. Maybe more like 3/4. And I also just wanted to point out that this is not the same elastic that goes in the bottom. This is a narrower elastic and it does not have silicone on it. Please do not use the silicone elastic in the pocket. For the things that are sewn on the straight stitch machine, please use regular thread. Please do not use woolly nylon. Woolly nylon does not belong in the straight stitch machine. This is regular thread. Here. I'm going to start by securing the ends of the elastic to the edge of the fabric by stitching through them. On both sides, of course. And not directly to the edge, because this is going to be folded over. This is to say, make sure that this area here, make sure that there's some space there. Then, fold this in, fold this down, and stitch, don't stitch through the elastic, but do stitch through the fabric all the way. And yes, we're doing this with the regular machine. These stitches themselves are not actually going to be stretched. It's the elastic that is getting stretched, and these stitches are actually sort of, well, the fabric is going to get bunched around the elastic. That's what I got to say about that. I made a light mark here, and I am going to start by zigzagging the pocket face down towards the bottom, so that when I eventually stitch it with the bagging where it belongs, there'll be a little bit of a bagging happening here. And the reason for that is when I go to put something in the pocket, it like has more space to exist in the pocket. As I said, I'm zigzagging the pocket edge where I drew the line. What I'm doing now is finding this. Okay, the notch is here and the notch is here, and I laid the ruler across so that I could better easily line up the pocket and make sure that it's nice and straight. And I'm gonna put a pin there to mark the center. Now I'm gonna put a pin over here to mark the edge. And yes, I have to pull on it to do that. And here. And I think I should probably put one in the edges just to make sure that they stay where they belong. Being very careful that since I'm going to be putting this through the serger, be very, very careful with the pins in the serger. The side pieces are going to be going on the sides, of course, because they're side pieces. I've got this pinned up here. I should probably... This is weird. My pocket is... Good grief, it's like 12 and 3... What's a third of 13? That's like 4 and 4 and a third. So I'm going to mark 4 and a third from either side. What is a third? Good grief. It's like between a quarter and 3/8. And then at the bottom here, I don't know. I'm not a professional. Like, no one ever told me how to make a jersey, okay? I'm just, like, looking at jerseys that I have, and with the knowledge that I have of working with activewear from, like, a previous job. But, like, the activewear that we made at my previous job was, like, baseball jerseys, leggings. We made some hockey jerseys. I feel the need to point out that I'm not overly concerned with my stitches ripping out because this is a vertical seam. My jersey's not really going to be stretching vertically. Not a whole lot anyway. This is not a hugely weight-bearing seam. I'm going to do this backwards actually just because I want it to slightly go off of the fabric, and I want it to slightly go off of the pocket, and I don't want to have to jump onto it. I'm going to jump off of it. Alright, here we go. And of course I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, because there's 3 back pockets here. Every jersey I make, I get better. Now I'm gonna have to make Michael like several jerseys because I've gotten so much better at doing this. So I marked 2 inches up from the bottom because I don't want this to interfere with the hem. And the reason that I cut this on the bias, the shiny part, I cut this on the bias so that the ends could more easily be twisted into the seam. And now I'm just stitching it in place, basting it just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere when I try to serge. Being on the bias will also give it just a little bit of stretch because naturally this is a woven fabric and does not stretch. So cutting it on the bias gives it just a little extra stretch for ease of movement because this is a bike jersey and we want ease of movement. Now fun part. Now I get to serge the side pieces to the back. Next, I'm going to serge the shoulder seams together. Do make sure that you have the collar straight when you do this, because as you'll recall, the collar is already attached to the front. I'm going to serge the edge of the collar approximately equal to how much I have attached it to the front already. On both sides. Okay, I'm going to fold the collar in half and picking up where I left off, I'm going to serge it to the neckline. To make it easier to get it even, I've notched the center of the collar and the center of the back. My feed dogs are chipped, and it's like catching on my fabric, making pulls and runs, and it's really frustrating. I have been away from my jersey making for how long? hopefully can get things moving, cause I need a new plate.
One eternity later.
I'm not getting any younger. It's in a plastic bag, in a plastic bag, plastic box, in a plastic bag. Put this on the machine and get moving. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. And now I resume setting in the sleeves. My first race of the year is coming up soon, and I think that I would really like to wear this if I can. Of course, it depends on the weather. And now I'm doing the underarm seam, also known as the side seam.
According to craftcadence.com,
Cycling jerseys are engineered to fit your body while in a riding position. This means that the rear of the jersey and the sleeve should be longer than the average t-shirt. However, without a hem and silicone grippers, this improved design can be completely wasted. A hem on the bottom of the jersey and the end of the sleeves will help the cycling jersey retain shape as well as keep it well fitting and tight. Mid-tier jerseys typically have silicone tape on the polyester fabric or on the back of the jersey. The high-end cycling jerseys use silicone grippers, where silicone is the fabric itself around the hems. The silicone creates friction against your riding shorts and keeps this jersey in place without it riding up your back while riding. Not only helping you maintain your dignity, but it also makes it easier to access your rear pockets as they are kept towards the bottom of your back. I am unable to access silicone fabric, but I do have silicone elastic. As you can see, it has some ripples of silicone on it that should help grip my shorts or leggings, whatever I'm wearing that day. Another thing that I would like to point out here is that this is not significantly bunched in. The elastic isn't so much to make it significantly smaller, but it's literally, the purpose is the silicone. And also to make sure that it doesn't get stretched out or whatever. So as I said, the function of the elastic isn't necessarily to like gather it and draw it in, but just to hold it in place and make sure that it retains its shape. So I wouldn't make your elastic all that much shorter than the hem of the jersey. I would measure like from where you intend to have the zipper, and then maybe subtract like, I don't know, like an inch. Like, seriously, not a lot. So I need a whopping 43 inches of elastic to go around the hips of my jersey. So now, to sew the elastic on, I have the grippy side to the face of the fabric at the hem. I've got the edges lined up. Here, I've got a 1/2 inch of space. That's about how much I'll need to insert the zipper. And I am going to use a zigzag stitch. Not the biggest stitch. I have it at a seam at a length of a 3, which is the halfway point on my machine. And I'm going to zigzag close to, but not directly over the edge of the elastic. You see, you don't want to catch like the actual silicone. You just want it to be close. The zigzag makes it stretchy, but this would be really difficult to do with a cover stitch machine. And since this is ever so slightly, I mean literally like an inch, but since it is ever so slightly shorter than the hem, we do need to stretch it just a little bit. So this is what it looks like on the inside. And I'm going to do that around the entire hem. Now it is time to cover stitch the elastic. This is the test piece I did to make sure that my cover stitch is nicely done. And the nice thing about the elastic is that it makes a very nice fingerable ridge right here. So you should know where your elastic, where you're supposed to be stitching. You should know where you're supposed to be stitching, even though it's on the bottom. Does the silicone make this harder? Yes. However, it is not an insurmountably difficult task. It's just a little sticky. time to sew on the zipper. Make sure that the bottom of the zipper is very nicely lined up with the bottom of the fabric, because we're not hemming under the bottom. This, we've already done that. So the end is the end. Since there's silicone elastic in here, it can be a little tricky to get it started. You may have to push and pull at the same time, but it is a thing that can be done. I'm using the zipper foot, but I have not moved the needle yet because I don't actually want to sew too close to the knee. Fold the collar over the end of the zipper, but for the time being, yes, we have the collar folded in half, and I've got the edge lined up with the edge because I want to make sure that we don't have the zipper significantly above or below the edge of the fabric. That would be really silly looking. Thank goodness I measured correctly and don't have any weird extra in either the fabric or the zipper. I don't have any weird extra. That's a good thing. It's been so long since I started this project, I sort of kind of forgotten some things. Thanks to my stupid serger plate breaking and the feed dog thing happening. And I'm gonna pull the zipper pull down just so that it's not in my way. And when we get to the top of the zipper, that's when we back tack. Alright, now I really want this seam to line up with the other side. So I'm going to start there and I'm going to tack it down. And I'm going to check to make sure that my tacking is in the correct spot. And it is. Excellent. And this time I'm going to go from the top down because of where the tacking is. Makes it easier. Note to self, trim those threads later. Top stitching the zipper. Much like when you do a centered zipper, I mean this is a centered zipper, I guess, even if it's a separating zipper. I've just got the material like pushed over the teeth, and I'm going to do the same when I go to do the other side. It is a little bit challenging to get started on that silicone elastic because it does want to stick to my machine. So I might go back and just do some extra stitches over that in the end. I wonder if I could put like tape or something on that silicone elastic and make it not quite so sticky when I'm trying to work with it. My biggest fear would be that it would be the wrong kind of sticky when I'm done. Let's try the tape. Put a piece on the other side too. Alright friends, the secret to the silicone elastic is to put some tape over it. Yeah, it rips off. There we go. Yay! And then, of course, I'm gonna do the other side. Inside the jersey, I have the collar pinned down to make it nice and even, make sure it all matches and looks good. And I'm gonna sew it down. Almost there. Next up, I gotta put the cuffs on. This is, of course, a long sleeve jersey. If you are making yourself a short sleeve jersey, you don't need cuffs. You would just hem the sleeves. I'm just serging the edges together here. So it looks like that. And it will be folded into a cuff, like that. So I got the jersey right side out. Got the sleeve here, and I'm going to put the cuff on top of it. And I want the seams to line up, but not completely on top of each other, honestly, because that makes it super bulky in like one tiny area, and that can just be a struggle for the machine and for yourself. So I usually do offset them just a little bit. And the reason we do it this way is because it's easier to get the foot inside the sleeve than it is to get the sleeve, like, to try to go around the machine. Just and of course, do the same to the other side. It fits! The collar's a little big. It's not really aero. I'm definitely going to be getting some like airflow down in there, but that's not necessarily a bad thing unless I get bugs down there. That's why I don't like to wear low-cut shirts when I ride my bike. It's like, bug funnel! But it might not be too bad. I got one final thing to do to this jersey. Michael and I are fans of Path Less Pedaled. I have one of their patches, and I'm gonna sew it to my jersey. I like to ride party pace. I'm threading up in black because this little patch, I'm going to be stitching directly between the blue and pink where there's actually black, so that's what I'm doing. I've never really been a fan of iron-on patches because in my experience, the iron-on-ness of them makes them kind of just fall off after you wash them. I've never really had much success with getting an iron-on patch to actually stay on. So I always sew them on. I'm a little bit obsessed with things being like really neat and tidy, so I drew a line and I'm gonna make sure that it's directly on the lines.